Hi friends, and welcome to our video on attaching your baby to your breast. So first things first, one of the best ways to support your baby in latching and feeding well and often is to share skin to skin with them in those first several weeks or months of life. The first thing I tell people is if you're up and you're moving around and you're doing too much, or you're feeling uncomfortable when you're nursing, that may be impacting your baby's nursing experience and their latch. So if there are any challenges with latching, getting in bed, getting nice and cozy and well supported with the right pillows and props can support you in having a good latch with your baby and feeding in a sustainable way. I really truly believe that babies can feel it when we are uncomfortable and we're suffering through a feeding experience when we're hunched over and just trying to get it done. I remember for a while my baby wasn't doing really long feeds with me anymore, and it was after we moved into a new apartment and we didn't bring a rocking chair. And we had this futon that wasn't very comfortable, so I just fed her kind of sitting on the edge of my bed. And I don't really feel like I was very comfortable during the feeds, and I think she could feel that because she wasn't feeding for very long. Then when we moved back home, I got a rocking chair. I sat in it, got nice and comfortable, and started feeding her. And she just had this long, 20-minute feed, and we were cozy together. And I was like, oh, this is so much better. And I think that she could really feel how comfortable I was, and that supported her in nursing longer. So step number 1 is skin to skin. Step number 2 is find a position that feels best for you and your baby. In the beginning, babies don't have a lot of head and neck control. So we see women and parents breastfeeding their babies in a cradle and holding their baby like this. And the baby is supposed to be able to kind of support their neck a little bit, move their head around as needed in this position. And it really is not that optimal. Babies often need a whole hand behind their head, holding their head up and supporting their head and keeping it right on the breast. Otherwise, they may be falling off continuously throughout a feed, or they may have a hard time continuing the feed because they're not able to hold their head in the position that is needed. So this is why I recommend doing a position like this. So the first thing you're going to do is take your baby and make sure you're belly to belly. So baby's tummy is facing your tummy. Then you can take your opposite arm and wrap it around your baby, kind of holding their back, but mostly supporting their head. Take your hand into a C shape or a U shape to support your breast from the side or from the bottom. You can take your other hand and wrap it around your baby if you want, or you can keep it on your breast to hold it while baby feeds. So that position is called the cross cradle hold, and it's my favorite position to use when feeding your baby in those early weeks. Another position that's great is called the football hold, and it looks like this. So baby is feeding on your side. So take the hand that is the same to the breast that you're feeding baby on to support baby's head. Take your other hand and use a C shape to hold your breast in place to keep it stable for baby, and then bring baby to your breast. Another position is called sideline nursing, and that's when you're lying on your side, preferably with a pillow behind your back, between your knees, and under your head. You can take your top arm and tuck it kind of up behind your head under the pillow, and make sure that the space around baby is flat with no pillows or blankets or anything near the baby or on top of the baby, just in case you were to fall asleep while nursing. Okay, so let's cover some latching basics. Your breast is not a straw for a baby to attach to and then suck the milk out of. Instead, your baby needs to attach to not only your nipple, but some of the areola around your nipple, preferably the areola at the bottom part of the nipple where the baby is attaching. You want to see more of the baby's top lip pointed out on the top and their bottom lip pointed out on the bottom. Sometimes for people with large breasts, you're not able to see it that well, but you can usually take a clean pinky and just feel it and make sure that the baby's lip is tucked out like this. If the baby's lip is tucked in, you can remove the latch and try again, or you could just simply take your pinky and encourage the bottom lip to come out. When baby's top lip is out and when their bottom lip is out, that helps to make sure that they are getting more breast in their mouth, and that helps them to latch and nurse without it being painful for you. The next tip for latching your baby to your breast is to bring your baby to you rather than bringing your body to the baby. And I know that can be hard when your baby is crying and they really want your boob right away and they're like, please give me the tube. But if you could just wait just a moment, get yourself comfortable and ready, and take your baby, hold your breast, and then move baby to the breast, that can help you stay in the position that you want to be in rather than like leaning forward and going to baby, which could create an unsustainable feeding position for you. So you want to try to encourage your baby to get as much breast into their mouth as possible. If they just take just this top part of the nipple right into their mouth, what happens is when they pinch down on the nipple, they are going to be pinching that nipple on the hard roof of their mouth, and that is not going to feel good for you. So instead, what you could do is take your breast and gently take the nipple and wiggle it like this at the very top of the baby's mouth. This will encourage your baby to open their mouth wide, and as soon as your baby has a nice wide open mouth, then what you do is you take your baby and you bring them straight to your body directly onto the breast. Okay, so your baby is belly to belly, which means their belly is touching your belly. You're in a position that feels good for you. You're choosing to bring baby to your body rather than leaning onto baby, and you're tickling their mouth to get them to open their mouth wide before putting them on the breast. And you're also making sure that their lips are not tucked in, but instead they're flared out like a fish. There are a couple little ways that you can look at your baby's face and identify if they have a good latch as well. One of them is to make sure that their cheeks are rounded, not sucked in. So when their cheeks start going like that and there's a little like divot when they're suck, that might mean that they don't have the best latch. But when their cheeks are rounded, that indicates that they're latching in a good way. And then you can listen for drinking sounds or like other clicking or smacking sounds. If your baby is making clicking sounds and you hear air being sucked in, maybe they're coming off their breast and back on, that means the latch is not adequate. But if the baby is drinking and you hear audible swallowing sounds, that means the baby is latched well and they're getting milk. One of the ways to identify if you had a good latch or not is if your nipple is shaped like a tube of lipstick when you take your nipple out. When you take your nipple out and look at it, if it's shaped like a lipstick tube, which means it kind of has like a point at the end, that means that the baby was compressing your nipple on the hard roof of their mouth, which means that the nipple just didn't get far enough back into their mouth that time during that latch. And the way that you can prevent that from happening is to really encourage your baby to open their mouth really wide and then bring them to your breast.